think about the hardest thing you've ever done physically. Maybe it was running that marathon, climbing that local mountain trail, or just making it up 10 flights of stairs when the elevator broke. Now multiply that effort by about 50, add in air so thin your brain starts shutting down, temperatures that would freeze your spit before it hits the ground, and you're getting close to what Sherpas deal with regularly on Mount Everest. Sherpas are casually carrying 80-pound loads up the tallest mountain on Earth, where the oxygen is literally 1/3 of what we breathe down here. Just to put things in perspective, above 26,000 feet is what climbers call the death zone. Most of us would be unconscious within hours. Your body is literally dying, not in some metaphorical, "I'm so tired I could die" way, but in the very real, "my organs are shutting down from lack of oxygen" way. Makes you wonder how Sherpas do it, right? Well, it starts with something that looks deceptively simple from the outside: their bodies. Here's the thing about Sherpas that most people don't realize. They're not just better at climbing because they practice more. They're literally built different on a genetic level. These aren't skills you can pick up at your local CrossFit box or by watching a few YouTube tutorials. You know how some people are born with natural athletic ability? Well, Sherpas were born with something way better. Mutations in their DNA that literally help them thrive, where the rest of us would be gasping like fish out of water. First off, they've got this thing called the EPAS, one gene. Scientists call it the super athlete gene, which is honestly underselling it. It's more like the survive where humans shouldn't gene. This little genetic jackpot lets them process oxygen in ways that would make Olympic athletes jealous, while the rest of us are desperately trying to suck in more air at high altitudes. Their bodies are calmly saying, "Yeah, we can work with this." Their blood is different too. You'd think having more red blood cells at high altitude would be better, right? More cells means more oxygen carriers, but Sherpa bodies are smarter than that. They actually maintain lower hemoglobin levels than the rest of us would at altitude. Sounds backward until you realize that too many red blood cells make your blood thicker than a milkshake, which can cause heart attacks and strokes on the mountain. Their blood stays thin and keeps flowing smoothly while still delivering enough oxygen where it needs to go. And Sherpas produce more nitric oxide, which is basically like adding a turbocharger to your circulatory system. This stuff dilates blood vessels, improving blood flow and oxygen delivery to every cell in their body. The craziest part, they're not even trying. This isn't some intense training regimen or special breathing technique. They were born with these superpowers after thousands of years of their ancestors living at extreme altitudes. You think your daily commute is tough? Try growing up in a village that sits higher than most ski resorts. For Sherpas, extreme altitude isn't some special condition they need to adapt to. It's Tuesday. While most Western climbers spend months training, buying expensive gear, and acclimating just to attempt Everest once in their lifetime, Sherpas are born and raised in the Khumbu region, where the air is already thin enough to make tourists gasp just walking around. Many Sherpa villages sit at elevations between 8,000 and 14,000 feet, heights where most of us would get altitude sickness just sitting still. Their training doesn't happen in fancy gyms with personal trainers and protein shakes. It happens when they're 8 years old, carrying firewood up steep mountain trails. By the time they're adults, they've basically been doing high-altitude interval training their entire lives without even calling it that. Before becoming Everest guides, most Sherpas start as porters, carrying loads that would make your gym's heaviest backpack look like a purse. We're talking 80 to 100 pounds of equipment, food, and supplies, balanced with a head strap and carried up steep mountain terrain. Not for an Instagram workout photo, for a living day after day. Many work their way up to becoming icefall doctors, the elite Sherpas who navigate the most dangerous section of the Everest climb, the Khumbu Icefall. This is where they set up ladders and ropes across massive crevasses that could swallow a school bus. They cross these sketchy ice bridges so many times that what would be a terrifying, once-in-a-lifetime experience for you becomes just another day at the office for them. And here's the wild part. While foreign climbers are decked out in $2,000 down suits and the latest oxygen systems, many Sherpas are doing the same work in much simpler gear. We've seen Sherpas racing up sections of mountain in light jackets, while Western climbers in full expedition gear were struggling to move. It's not about the gear for them. It's about the lifetime of experience and adaptation. Let's talk about what actually happens to your body in the death zone, because it's even worse than it sounds. Above 26,000 feet, every minute you spend there is borrowed time. Your body is literally dying and the clock is ticking. The oxygen levels drop to about 33% of what you're breathing right now. Imagine trying to run a marathon while breathing through a coffee stirrer. That's basically what your lungs are experiencing. Your brain, which uses 20% of your body's oxygen even when you're just chilling on your couch, starts to shut down non-essential functions to preserve what little oxygen is available. First goes your digestion. Your stomach basically stops working. Then your extremities start getting less blood as your body focuses on keeping your core organs alive. That's why frostbite is so common. Your mental capacity takes a massive hit too. Basic math becomes challenging. Decision-making gets impaired. Some climbers report hallucinations or completely forgetting hours of their climb. 1 minute you're making sense, the next you're taking off your gloves because you suddenly feel hot, which is actually your brain starting to swell from lack of oxygen, a condition called HACE, high-altitude cerebral edema, that can kill you within hours. Speaking of things that can kill you quickly, there's also HAP, high-altitude pulmonary edema, where fluid builds up in your lungs, essentially drowning you from the inside out. Your muscles start cannibalizing themselves for energy because they can't efficiently process fuel anymore. Every step feels like you're wading through chest-deep mud wearing concrete shoes. And yet, this is where Sherpas are not just surviving, but working, carrying loads, setting ropes, and guiding exhausted climbers who can barely put one foot in front of the other. The temperatures make everything worse. We're talking -40 degrees or colder, with wind chill. At these temperatures, exposed skin can freeze in less than a minute. Your eyelashes freeze together when you blink. The moisture in your breath forms ice crystals inside your oxygen mask. Batteries die within minutes if they're not kept warm against your body. And that's just the physiological stuff. We haven't even talked about the psychological effects, the isolation, the knowledge that over 300 people have died on this mountain, many of whose frozen bodies you'll pass on your way to the summit, yet somehow Sherpas navigate this environment with an almost supernatural calm. While others are fighting for every breath, they're setting anchors, fixing ropes, and sometimes even singing traditional songs as they work. You might think that climbing Everest requires some fancy, scientifically optimized diet. And sure, Western expedition teams do bring all kinds of specialized freeze-dried meals, energy gels, and protein supplements. But Sherpas, they're powered by something far simpler and honestly way more effective. The cornerstone of the Sherpa diet is something called tsampa, roasted barley flour that most Americans have never even heard of. This stuff is the original superfood, providing slow-burning complex carbs that keep energy levels stable for hours. It's usually mixed with butter tea to form a dough-like paste that's easy to eat, even when your appetite is destroyed by altitude. Speaking of butter tea, pocha. This stuff would make your fancy bulletproof coffee look like amateur hour. It's a calorie bomb of tea, yak butter, and salt that provides massive amounts of fat, exactly what your body needs to stay warm in sub-zero temperatures. While most Western climbers struggle to force down freeze-dried meals that taste like cardboard, Sherpas are sipping this magical elixir that both hydrates and provides the fat their bodies need to generate heat. Then there's dal bhat, a simple combination of lentil soup and rice that Sherpas can eat twice a day. There's even a saying on Everest, dal bhat power, 24-hour. This perfect combination of protein and carbs provides sustainable energy that doesn't spike your blood sugar and then crash, which is exactly what you don't need when you're hanging off the side of the world's tallest mountain. The Sherpa diet is also rich in garlic, which isn't just for flavor. It's been shown to help reduce the symptoms of altitude sickness and improve blood flow. It's like they intuitively developed a diet that supplements their genetic advantages. What's most impressive is how they maintain their nutrition at extreme altitudes, where most people completely lose their appetite. When you're above 20,000 feet, your body starts rejecting food. Everything tastes like cardboard. Your stomach doesn't want to digest anything, and just the thought of eating can make you nauseous. Yet Sherpas somehow maintain their caloric intake, eating meals that would be substantial even at sea level. And here's what really blows my mind. They're not counting macros or obsessing over nutrition timing or any of that stuff. This diet evolved naturally over centuries to perfectly match the demands of their environment and activities. While Western sports science is just now catching up to the benefits of things like intermittent fasting and ketogenic diets for certain types of performance, Sherpas have been living these principles for generations without needing a PhD to figure it out. Make no mistake, despite their incredible adaptations, Sherpas aren't immune to the dangers of Everest. In fact, they face these dangers far more frequently than any Western climber ever will. Most foreign climbers attempt Everest once in their lifetime. Sherpas might cross the deadly Khumbu icefall 20 or 30 times in a single climbing season. The Khumbu icefall is basically a slow-motion river of ice that's constantly shifting, cracking, and collapsing. Imagine trying to cross a jigsaw puzzle while someone's actively shaking the table. Massive ice towers called seracs, some as big as apartment buildings, can collapse without warning. Crevasses can open up under your feet in areas that were solid just days before. To navigate this maze of moving ice, Sherpas lay down aluminum ladders, sometimes lashing several together end to end to span particularly wide crevasses. Imagine crossing a 50-foot chasm on a wobbly ladder while wearing bulky boots, carrying a heavy pack, and knowing that a fall means a one-way ticket to the bottom of a bottomless pit. Now imagine doing that multiple times a day, sometimes in the dark, guided only by your headlamp. In 2014, the dangers of the icefall were tragically highlighted when an avalanche struck, killing 16 Sherpas in the single deadliest day in Everest's history. Even above the icefall, the threats continue. The Lhotse face is an intimidating wall of ice with slopes reaching 45 degrees or more. One slip here means a fall of thousands of feet. What's truly mind-boggling is that Sherpas navigate these dangers while carrying loads. While foreign climbers focus solely on their own movement and safety, Sherpas are often hauling oxygen bottles, food supplies, or even setting up the fixed lines that everyone will use. It's like asking someone to not just run a marathon, but to do it while carrying a backpack full of bricks and stopping to build bridges along the way. And yet, season after season, they return to the mountain. For many Sherpas, it's the only way to make enough money to support their families and provide education for their children. A successful Everest season can earn a Sherpa guide more than 10 times what they'd make in other available jobs. It's a devil's bargain. Risk your life on the mountain for a chance to give your children a future away from it. Despite their legendary status, many experienced Sherpas are now saying something that should concern everyone who cares about mountaineering. They believe that in as little as 10 years, there might not be any more Sherpa guides on Everest. Not because they'll physically disappear, but because the younger generation is increasingly choosing different paths. Climate change is transforming Everest in ways that make the already dangerous mountain even more treacherous. The Khumbu Glacier is melting and shifting faster than ever before. Routes that were stable for decades are now unpredictable. Avalanche risks are increasing as warming temperatures destabilize snow and ice that previously remained frozen solid. The mountain is literally falling apart under their feet. At the same time, Everest is getting more crowded with less experienced climbers. That viral photo from 2019 showing a conga line of climbers queued up near the summit isn't just a traffic jam, it's a deadly situation waiting to happen. When inexperienced climbers get stuck in the death zone, who has to rescue them? Sherpas. When someone runs out of oxygen because they spent too long waiting in line. Sherpas are the ones who rush up with emergency supplies. Despite literally putting their lives on the line, many Sherpas are still not getting fairly compensated for the risks they take. While foreign climbers might pay $50,000 to $100,000 for an Everest expedition, the Sherpas guiding them and carrying their equipment often receive only a small fraction of that amount. A high-altitude Sherpa might make between $5,000 and $10,000 for an entire dangerous season. Good money in Nepal, but a pittance compared to the value they provide and the risks they take. Now, younger Sherpas who have options are increasingly choosing education and careers that don't involve risking their lives on the mountain. And if this trend continues, climbing Everest will never be the same. Without Sherpa guides, the mountain would likely return to what it was in the early days of exploration, a challenge only accessible to the most elite climbers in the world. So here we are, at the end of our journey through the extraordinary world of Sherpas and their seemingly superhuman abilities. If there's one thing we should take away from the story of Sherpas, it's a profound appreciation for human adaptability. In a world that increasingly shields us from environmental extremes, Sherpas remind us of our species' remarkable capacity to not just survive, but thrive in the most challenging conditions on Earth. So, what's your take? Would you ever attempt to climb Everest? Or are you like me, perfectly happy to admire these incredible feats from the comfort of sea level? Drop a comment below and let me know. And if you enjoyed learning about these superhuman mountaineers, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for joining me on this journey to the roof of the world. Until next time, stay curious.